Well, today me and Buttmaster T want to come to you and tell you how you can start getting into emulation. What is the best way? You're thinking, hey, I want to play retro games. What is the best way to do it? Tony has his way, I got my way. My way's better.
No, my way's better.
We're gonna find out. We're going to cover the four most common ways that people go back and they emulate some of the greatest games of all time. The 80s, the 90s, the NES, Sega Genesis. Were you a Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo kid?
I would say I'm more Sega Genesis.
Oh, now we're agreeing. Okay.
Yeah, Sega Genesis had more power.
Yes, it did. Yes. Blast processing.
16-bit.
Yep, no slowdown. So we're going to talk a couple ways that you can do this. The four most common ways to emulate retro games. We're going to go over the pros, the cons. We're going to talk about the level of difficulty. Some of these systems, you know, you got to really know what you're doing, right?
Right.
Some of them are pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
We're also going to talk about the cost. You know, some of these are pretty cheap. Some of these, you have to put a little money into. We're also going to talk about the power. You know, some of these systems and methods that we're going to talk about can't play all the games, can they?
Yeah.
Can you think of any examples? Probably the one you keep rubbing in my face all the time.
Street Fighter 5.
Yeah, Street Fighter 5. You can't play Street Fighter 5 on your system. That's not
on the PC.
Also, we're going to talk about the portability. What if you want to take this to your friend's house? Some of these solutions may not work for you. You know, if you're the kind of person that wants to go over to your friend's house and say, hey, let's get some retro gaming on, you may have to invite them to your house because you can't really move it as easy as, say, you know, something that is a lot more lighter and smaller. So we're talking about that too. And the last thing we want to talk about is player inputs. You know, everyone has their favorite joystick. Everyone has their least favorite joystick.
Right.
And you know, sometimes you want to use a trackball. Sometimes you don't want to use a trackball. And some of these systems allow you to do a little bit of both or none at all. So we're going to cover that too. So let's get into it. Alright guys, there are several consoles out there that can be hacked. The Xbox, the PS2 and the 3. You can also do, of course, the Wii. Tonight I wanted to talk to you about the Wii console specifically. Okay, and there's a lot of reasons why I think this is an awesome console to hack. First and foremost, it has a huge following. This is one of the most sold consoles of Nintendo, so there is a huge community. There are lots of forums like Nintendo Age, GBA Temp, that have a huge community dedicated to hacking both the Wii and the Wii U. Okay, and they both use the same emulator, so we're just covering the Wii. Okay, so first thing I want to cover though is the interfaces. When you go to get a Wii, you need to be advised that the Wii does not output HDMI natively. Okay, it is a component at best. It comes with composite, you know, the red, white, and yellow cables, but it is a component at best output. There are adapters, but you have to buy those. So if you're going to do some emulation on the Wii, you need to be aware of the fact that you may not have a TV that it can even hook up to. Okay, so that's very important. Alright guys, there's one thing that I forgot to tell you about the controllers. When you hook up different controllers to the Wii, one thing to be mindful of. If you're a huge Centipede, Millipede, Marble Madness fan, you know where I'm going, right? Trackball. The Wii does not support the trackball. You can get keyboard inputs, okay? You can get that to work. You can. Okay, and just about any other controller that can hook up through all your different adapters. But if you're into trackball games, or if that's a showstopper for you, be aware that trackball is not supported on the Wii. It's just not going to happen, guys. Let's talk about level of difficulty. Is it hard? Is it easy? Is it simple? Well, if you watch one of our videos, you'll learn pretty quick just how easy it is. But I would say that it does have a pretty good learning curve, and it's not straightforward. You do have to kind of get used to what's needed. You know, you have to jailbreak these. There is some, you know, legwork that has to be done to get these set up. You can't just out of the box start playing the arcade and retro consoles on these things. So it does have a little bit of a learning curve. Okay. The next thing I want to tell you why this is so much better than the PC is cost. This is only $50, roughly, in a GameStop. I picked up mine for about $25. So if you want to get into retro gaming and you're on a low budget, the Wii is a very good way to go. Okay, it's very inexpensive. Now, that is just for the console. The things that do get expensive, think about it, guys. Are you going to play arcade games with this? No. So what you got to do is have something that can plug into the Wiimote. Okay, so you got to buy these. So you have to have one of these and one of these. So, you know, cost can be, you know, at first not too bad, but it can climb quickly. Okay, so just be aware of that. But they have all kinds of adapters out there where you can use anything from a PS3 controller to the X arcade stick to just about anything on the Wii. Okay, so something else you need to be aware of. What about portability? The Wii is actually pretty small. It's pretty light. You know, you have to have the sensor bar, the power cable, the hookups, and your controllers and the console, and that's pretty much it. You can fit most of this in a small backpack, you know, or a big purse if you're a girl. But the Wii is pretty light. It's pretty easy to take over to a friend's house. So in that aspect, it makes it very advantageous. The last thing I want to talk to you is about the power. Now this is something that the Wii struggles with, okay? Remember, this thing came out in 2008. That's a long time ago. That's a decade ago. So the Wii's CPU is not very strong. So when we're trying to play games like you saw in the intro, right? Killer Instinct, NFL Blitz, things like that, the Wii is not where to go, okay? There are some games it just can't play. It's just not strong enough. It doesn't have enough memory. For instance, if you want to play Samurai Showdown 5, you can play Samurai Showdown 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can't play Samurai Showdown 5 because it requires too much memory. Memory limitations aside, it can play probably 80 to 90% of all the arcade games that you want. If you want it just for Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, things like that, you're good to go. The Wii is very simple and powerful enough to run those games. It can run Sega CD, it can run Neo Geo CD, and things like that. Okay. All right, let's get into the next method of emulation. I want to talk to you about the Raspberry Pi. Nothing has taken this market by storm as far as emulation as a Raspberry Pi. It came on board probably about 5 years ago and has spread like wildfire. It's new, it's unique, you know, and it's more powerful than, you know, a lot of the consoles that are emulated out there, including the Wii. And it gives you a lot of options, and it's also portable. So let's talk about it, okay? So the Raspberry Pi, first thing, output. Instead of component like the Wii, you're gonna go right to HDMI, okay? No matter what you play, doesn't matter, NES, Sega Genesis, anything that you emulate is gonna output across HDMI. So you can hook it up to just about any TV, you know, that you have in the house. So that makes RetroPie very attractive, okay? So it doesn't limit you, okay? So that's a big plus. As far as level of difficulty, when you start hacking and trying to get, you know, emulators to run on the RetroPie, there is some big setups because this includes, you know, an operating system. You have to get an operating system loaded, then you have to get the RetroPie image loaded, then you have to get the emulation station and all of that loaded in the front end, and then the emulators and, you know, things like that. Because the operating system is a Unix-based operating system, so when you're troubleshooting and you're looking around at all the files and you don't know what to do because everything's on the command line, you know, so that can be a little daunting. Now, on the good side, the forums and the support and the community for Raspberry Pi is also huge. You know, it's growing and growing very, very fast. Okay, one of the biggest trends on YouTube is Raspberry Pi videos, so you're probably going to see a lot more of those from us too. Actually, I guarantee it. So there is a lot of support out there for Raspberry Pi, but with that community, you also get a lot of pre-made images that you can download from like Arcade Punks. That's a great site. And those are already pre-built, pre-staged. All you gotta do is download, unzip and extract, and boom, there you go, everything's done, okay? So learning curve can be either really high or really easy depending on how much customization you want with the RetroPie. Let's talk about cost. So with the Wii, you had $50 for the console, then you gotta get your adapters and controllers and an SD card, and you're pretty much done. That's it. So maybe $100, $120 total with all the controllers and all the Wiimotes, things like that. RetroPie is about the same. It's about $100, $150 total. You'll spend about $50 on a decent SD card, depending on what size you want. You'll spend about $50 for the RetroPie kit, We'll also put a link below in the description on which kit we recommend, along with the SD cards that we recommend. Okay. Once you get done with that, you'll want to get a joystick, so that's going to cost you a little bit of money. You know, the RetroPie does accept USB, so that opens the door for Xbox 360 controllers, PlayStation controllers, and just about any other controller. The X-Arcade Tank Stick also works great with the RetroPie. So the cost can be either up or down on the joysticks depending on what you already have and what you already want. It just depends. Now what about power? The RetroPie has been coming out with the RetroPie 1, the RetroPie 2, the RetroPie 3. What's the difference? The only difference is the CPU speed and the CPU power. Now, as good as the RetroPie 3 is, they've hit their limitation and they've admitted it. There's not going to be a RetroPie 4 for a long time. So there's ways to overclock your RetroPie, and you can get it up to about 1.6 gigahertz, which is pretty good, but that is still not enough to run games like Killer Instinct and Blitz, you know, 99 Blitz, NFL Blitz 2000, things like that. You know, some of the Mortal Kombats may struggle a little bit. Soul Calibur and, you know, some of the 3D games may struggle a little bit. You know, I've tried some of the Tekken games and they run fine. Some of those run fine on the Wii as well. But there is some power limitations, but it's a little bit better than the Wii. For example, not only the games I gave you, but Samurai Shodown 5 runs perfect on the Raspberry Pi. Okay, Metal Slug, what you see running in the background. I'm running Metal Slug 3 right now. That game cannot be run on the Wii. You can get Metal Slug 1 and Metal Slug 2. You can't get 3 and X. It just does not work. The games are too big. Okay, so the Raspberry Pi is just a little bit better in power over the Wii. Okay, now what about portability? The Raspberry Pi is the best portable system, period. Okay, it is literally the size of a deck of cards. Take a look right here. Okay, check this thing out. It is the size of a deck of cards. You can put that in your pocket. You can wrap the HDMI cord and the power cord in your pocket. All you gotta do is carry your joysticks. Okay, so portability, too easy. Last but not least, what about player input? Okay, so the Raspberry Pi does take USB, which is a huge plus. So if we talk about the trackball and you know, steering wheels, any kind of USB joystick, it'll take it. But hang on, there is a big negative to the Raspberry Pi. Yes, it takes USB inputs, but it only has 4 ports. Okay, you need 2 of those usually for a keyboard and mouse to be able to run your operating system and be able to get in and out of things. Okay, and you can get some of that with a joystick, but you only have 4 ports, and those get eaten up really fast. So there's a limitation there with inputs, but it does take trackball. Okay, so I have a tank stick. Trackball's fine. You can play any trackball game you want. It will take roller dials, you know, any USB input, steering wheels, anything you can think of. Okay, so in that part, it really shines. Okay, that's a big plus. All right, actually, I wanted to talk to you guys about the Pandora Boxx. My buddy got it, and it was the first piece that got me pushed into arcade emulation, and you know, I really love it. The biggest disadvantage of the Pandora Boxx is you can't do retro gaming. It's arcade games only. You know, that can either be a plus or a minus, so it depends on what you're trying to do. Okay, you know, it is pretty good on the output. It gives you multiple different outputs. You can do HDMI out or VGA out, so that's kind of cool. You want to hook it up to a monitor, you got your VGA. You want to hook it up to a nice LCD, you got your HDMI. So it's kind of versatile in that aspect. The level of difficulty, if you can open a box, then that's all you need. Okay? 0, nothing. There's no configuration, there's no nothing. You just plug it in and play. Literally, plug and play. One of the other things I want to talk to you about is cost. They got the Pandora Boxx 4S, the 4S Plus, the 5S, the 6S. You know, they got all these different ones. We'll have the link in the description. But the cost is relatively inexpensive per se. You know, you can get them for about 200, 300 bucks. Okay, so they're not too bad. You know, not too bad for an arcade system. What about the power? So the Pandora's Box can play. It's kind of in between the Wii and the Raspberry Pi. Okay, it can play Metal Slug 3, 4, 5, and X. Okay, those are games that the Wii cannot play. But it cannot play, you know, Samurai Shodown 5, for example, or Killer Instinct, which, you know, the RetroPie can do Samurai Shodown 5, but it can't do Killer Instinct either. Okay, so it's kind of in between. you know, as far as power. So next I want to talk to you about portability. Oh my gosh, yeah, the joystick, the games, the sound system, everything is all in one. You pull it out of the box, you set it down, plug it in the TV, there it is. Everything else, you got to bring your joysticks, you got to bring your cables, or not the cables, you have to bring that for all of them anyway, but you have to bring your keyboard or your mouse or your adapters or whatever. You know, you have to bring all that stuff. This is just a box. You bring it out, that's it. Okay, very simple. So portability, you know, definitely up there as a bonus. What about inputs? You're not going to be able to add a trackball to this. You're not going to be able to add a steering wheel to this. You're not going to be able to add another joystick to this. This is a two-player system only. So overall, you know, I would give the Pandora Boxx a solid, you know, B+. I mean, it depends. It's very custom. You know, it depends on what you're doing and what you want. If you want just arcade system, pull out of the box, I don't want to know anything, I don't want to troubleshoot anything, I don't want to do anything except for plug and play, that is your system. Then it becomes an A+, knock it out of the park, grand slam, home run. Okay? But if you want to tinker and you want to customize and you want to play with stuff, the Pandora Boxx is not yours. You can't touch it, you can't edit it, you can't do nothing. It's a sealed, tight little, boop, there you go, operating system, software, game list, you know, all in one, and you can't do much to it. One of the other big drawbacks is that these systems are only from China. So if you have an issue, you're not going to go online to a forum and join a group of people and say, hey, does anybody else know how to do this? There's no customization. There's no tinkering. So if you have issues, you call China or wherever you bought it from, and hopefully they can support you in English. In either case, Tony is now going to try and convince you that the PC is the best overall solution. Let's hear what he has to say. Alright, for this last one, PC. Now, Tony thinks that it's the best overall system to emulate retro and arcade gaming. The PC, what can you do with the PC that you can't with the Wii, that you can't with the Retro Pi, that you can't with Pandora's Box?
You can play that. You can play.
He
may play this game. Killer Instinct 2.
Let's get that question, because that's a really good point, and that hurts my argument. So, okay, you can play Killer Instinct 2. Any other games?
Street Fighter 4.
Okay, some of the Street Fighters.
You can play not just the retro games, you can also play PC games, you can play some Steam games. Also, you can play Daphne. You know what Daphne is, where you can actually play like Dragon's Lair, Space Ace.
Okay. So the PC is more powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can play anything. Killer Instinct, NFL Blitz,
yep,
all that stuff.
Right.
Street Fighter 5. Okay. But you can't bring it over to a friend's house. That's a little bigger, right?
Oh, you can. You know, something like the MSI Trident 3 is small enough, as big as a PS4. You know, you can carry it around, put it into like a small duffel bag. And,
So all you would really need to bring is keyboard and mouse.
yeah, and your joystick.
Okay.
Like the tank stick.
So
tank stick.
it's not as small as a Wii, but it is still portable in a way. It's nowhere near as portable as a Retro Pi.
Correct.
But probably lighter weight than the Pandora's Box, right? About the same.
I would say the same.
About the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so portability will give it a match on the rest of the systems, but I think Retro Pi is probably the A+ on portability. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. What about inputs? Can I play? Yeah, of course you can do trackball and mouse, steering wheel. There's really, is there any limitation to inputs on PC?
No, there isn't.
That really hurts my argument as well. Okay, let's skip player input. Let's skip the power of the PC. Okay, let's get back to cost. Yeah,
all right, cost.
Come on,
You got me on cost.
Come on, and how much did he spend on his 1080 or 1060 whatever Ti video card? How much?
If you go ahead and Amazon and go ahead and purchase it, it's going to cost roughly around $800. They do have higher versions of the MSI Trident, which will cost a couple $1,000s.
Okay. All right. So if you put the money in, though, the benefit is everything is open. You can play anything.
Exactly. So you have an all-in-one.
Okay. I think level of difficulty is another big problem for the PC. Learning curve. And where do I start? There's so many different front ends. There's so many different emulators. How do I install it? How do I configure it? How do I get this joystick to work? It's, you know, it's a lot to learn, isn't it?
There's a lot to learn,
Okay.
And eventually we'll have a next video how to set up your retro gaming system on a PC. That would be next.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that because there's a lot to learn. There's that learning curve. We've done a lot of videos on the Wii. I think we should do a video on the PC.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. We can do a video on the Pandora's Box.
Pandora's Box.
How to plug it in.
That's it.
That's it.
How to.
How to's done. Okay.
Yeah. 2-second video.
All right. So if we had to rank these, here's my ranking. Okay.
All right.
And I'm gonna take, what you can input to it, what kind of controller support, steering wheels, and all that stuff, trackball. And I'm gonna take cost. I'm gonna take know-how, portability. How powerful is it? And I think that's it. So I think number one overall, based on that, I'm gonna have to put Raspberry Pi. I'm gonna have to put that as number one. I know it can't play Killer Instinct. I know it has limitations. I know it's not as powerful, and I get it. Yeah, I know. But because it doesn't have such a high cost and it has such a huge following and good forums and stuff like that, I think my number one is still going to be the Raspberry Pi, just because it's cheap, it's easy, there's images you can download and you're done, and it plays 90% of pretty much all the games that you'd want to for retro gaming. So that would be my number one. What would your number one be?
The PC.
PC.
Yeah.
Okay, you're still going to stick to your guns. Okay.
Yep. Because right now, when I think about the Raspberry Pi, to me it is slow. Even the menu itself, it's slow.
Oh yes, it's slow. It's only 1.6 gigahertz.
If I was going to bring a Raspberry Pi to a gaming party and we play on that, I think I'll have some irritated gamers there saying this menu is slow.
I hear you.
So
yeah.
I would say the Raspberry Pi.
Same thing. Yeah.
will be for personal use.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
I don't know.
All
Not
right.
for a
I
gaming tournament.
I have a small, comment to go, but
All right.
I think that with the PC, the learning curve would be my only turn.
Yeah.
I remember our last retro tournament when you had your system there. I looked around and I said, "Does anybody know how to switch systems?" And nobody knew, and we were scared to touch it.
Right.
So there was
That's
a little
true.
bit of a learning curve. We didn't want to break anything, but yeah, PC is probably my number two. I would tie it with probably the Wii, only because the Wii is, you already have your operating system, you already have everything set up. All you need to do is just download WiiFlow and just throw your ROMs on there. It's really easy. It's probably easier than the Retro Pi. And everyone has one, so not everyone has a powerful gaming PC. So I'd put that probably tied with the PC.
The Wii will be my second choice.
Yeah.
I would put the Raspberry Pi in the bottom choice for me.
Okay, fair enough.
Because the Wii runs the games pretty good.
It does run.
Even the menu is good.
The menu's very quick. WiiFlow is very easy. Yeah, I would agree. And it's interesting, both of us didn't put Pandora's Box in the top two, and I think it's probably for the same reason, is because it's limited. You can't do NES, you can't do Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, but you don't have to know anything. That's a big plus. If I'm trying to give this to my 5-year-old, I wouldn't give them the Wii or the Raspberry Pi or a computer.
Right.
I'd give them the Pandora's Box. So it may be number one in someone else's eyes, but for me, no. Number three.
It removes the fun of actually customizing
Yeah, there's no learning curve. There's
Yeah.
no sense of accomplishment. That's true. Yeah. And it is pretty powerful. You can play all the Metal Slugs. You can't do that in the Wii, so it does have some backbone to it.
Yeah.
But it can't do Samurai Shodown 5, but the Raspberry Pi can. So it's, like you said, it was somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Kind of stuck. All right. Well, that's our order, guys. Anything else you want to add, T? I think we covered them all pretty good.
No, but basically we'll have our links down below on this video. You can go in and click them if you're interested in buying any of the systems. Alright?
Absolutely. Alright guys, hope you learned something from this. We'll see you next time. If you have any questions regarding how to do emulation on the PC, don't ask me. Okay, I'm going to pitch it over to Tony, and hopefully he can figure it out, because my learning curve is still getting pretty high. If you want to know how to load emulators on the RetroPie, Raspberry Pi, we're going to be coming out with more videos like that. There's also links, you'll see our playlist to our Wii Console hacking and WiiFlow and RetroArch and how to set those up in main, also in the links below. So if you have any questions or you want to see those videos, you click those, okay? Alright guys, till next time.
All
See
right.
ya.
Thanks. Okay, go ahead.
Alright, Wiggy here with Button Masher T. We're gonna come to you tonight and tell you
Button masher.
All
Alright, camera's on. Mosquito.
I'm still whiteboarding ideas.
Hey, this is Button Mashing T. Wait, hold on.
He forgot his name.
The PC that we picked out for running our retro gaming.
He didn't forget his
Hey
name.
guys, this is Button Masher T.
I didn't know you were gonna play. I thought you were gonna say something else, you dork.